Roofers and contractors, how's it going, guys? So in this video, I want to talk to you guys about something really high level and that not many people actually understands. And so a couple things, and that's lifetime value to customer acquisition costs. What is your LTV to CAC? Do you even know what this is? Do you even understand the importance of it? But first off, why even watch this and who am I? My name is Marco Musso and I run a done for you lead generation company where we bring you exclusive quality appointments, and we've now served over 40 contractors nationwide, and we've made our partners millions of dollars in the past year alone. And again, I want to talk to you guys about the importance of why we need to understand this. So most roofers, I've spoken to thousands of roofers over the course of my lifetime. And when I ask, prospects or clients, hey, what is your LTV to CAC? What's your cost per acquisition? Most people don't know this. And so if you don't know this, you then cannot use your marketing budget in the highest efficiency way possible, in the highest leveraged way possible. And so what does this mean as a result and as a consequence? You are losing out on millions of dollars. And this is not an exaggeration. Think about over the course of the last years or however long you've started your company, your contracting company, and you don't know what your LTV to CAC is, you then can't use this to your advantage and put your money where it's best going to be multiplied in the highest leveraged way possible. And so you're then capping your marketing budget. And so, for example, when it comes to a marketing budget as well, I'll speak to prospects and they'll say, we have a marketing budget. And I'm like, why would you have a marketing budget when, if you have a scalable, predictable acquisition channel where you could put $1 in and get 4, 5, $10 out, why not just put as much money into that machine as possible and just pack it as much as possible? And so that's where the bottlenecks of not actually understanding your LTV to CAC comes into play. And I don't blame certain people for this because it's just a really technical and super in-depth tactical thing that most business owners are unaware of. But again, I'm going to explain the importance of this for your contracting company and why you need to know this. So if you don't understand this, you will then also blame the methods and models and say they don't work. So I've spoken to, again, thousands of contractors from across the country, and oftentimes on consultation calls, I'll be like, hey, so have you tried, Meta ads? Have you tried Google SEO? And they'll say it doesn't work. And that right there is a limiting belief because you cannot say that you having one bad past experience or two bad past experiences means something doesn't work. Now, most marketers are crap. That's the truth. They don't understand what they're doing. And so I get the industry. I understand the in-depths of it and as to why the contractors hate the marketers because none of them can perform. And so they don't understand this. They don't understand how to market. They don't understand buyer psychology. They don't understand any of it. But you cannot say that it doesn't work because you've just tried it once or twice. That is a limiting belief, and that's actually what's preventing you from investing into companies moving forward, which in turn can make you more money. So let's get into this. So CAC is the number of customers divided by the cost spent to acquire them. So an example of that would be if you have 10 new roofing jobs and spent $10,000 in total, your CAC is $1,000. LTV, on the other hand, is what the customer is worth to you over their lifetime being with you. Now, contracting in this niche specifically is slightly different because you're not going to get a brand new roof. You're not going to get a remodeling or a brand new kitchen every 5 years, every 10 years, because the jobs typically are one and done for roofs, 15 to 20 year lifespan, for bathrooms and kitchens, 20, 30 year plus, right? So the CAC or the LTV, I should say, is typically one and done, but hence exactly why it's higher ticket. And it's really important to understand this because when you're able to squeeze as much as possible from helping clients, they're then going to refer you, and then that can be worth double to your business. Meaning, an LTV for an average roofing job is, let's say, $15,000, $20,000 over the course of 15, 20 years, right? And if you get one referral job just from that customer alone, that means your LTV is doubled, which is close to $40,000. And so if you're going to spend $1,000 to acquire a customer and get a $20,000 in job in return, and then then they're going to refer you to another job. That's $40,000 to $1,000. That's a 40 to 1 LTV to CAC. Do we understand how this actually works now? And so we want the gap, like I said, to be as big as possible. For example, door knocking is pretty much $0 per acquisition unless you have a base for some of your sales reps, or unless they're working commission alone, then it's completely free. Organic is free as well. However, when you enter colder markets, the cost will increase, like running paid ads, going back to blaming the model, right? So if you do referrals and the leads are warm, you're closing 80% of them, and then you hop into a colder method, which is paid ads, Google SEO, or whatever it might be, you then cannot blame the quality of the leads because it's simply that we're entering a different markets. And then that goes back to having a dialed sales process so that you can ensure that you will be closing at least 25 to 35% on every single inbound lead on a brand new market. Okay. Now, we want this gap to be as big as possible. And to start, most companies that I speak with often do just referrals. And that's fine. But you cannot then complain about the lead quality when you're entering a different market because the leads are completely different. The process is slightly different as well. And this is where your marketing cost per acquisition will go up. And you cannot also say, oh, it doesn't work, and then just dial the marketing back down or just shut off the ads entirely. You have to understand what you're getting yourself into. And that's why tracking is super important, because you cannot improve what you're not tracking for your company. And so we then have 4 different stages of evolution on the front end when acquiring a brand new customer. And we have leads, we have bookings, we have shows, and then we have closers or closes, right? And so leads, this is, okay, we're going to enter a brand new market, whether it be Meta ads, whether it be Google ads. And this is where we're going to develop our brand new marketing strategy. And we're going to hopefully get a lead cost around 25 to 35 bucks. And then cost per appointment, we want to keep under $100. And then we want to close 1 out of every five qualified appointments, maybe 6, maybe 7 max. And so leads, bookings, shows, closes. And this is what's really unique about what we do as well here at Awaken and Growth, is that it's an entirely done for you system where all you guys have to do, you as the contractor, is just show up and close. And we control the leads, the bookings, and the shows. You guys just control the closes. That's it. We make our clients' life so simple and so easy. And so now let's go over an example of what this would be like for an actual real life client. So if we have let's say worst case scenario, a lead cost of roughly $50. We have 1 out of every 4 or qualified appointment, which means we have a $200 cost per qualified appointment. And if we're closing 1 out of every 4, that means we have a cost per acquisition of $800. 200 times 4 appointments is $800. And then we're closing 1 out of every 4. So that's the $800. And so that right there is our CAC, customer acquisition cost. And so guys, if you as a roofer watching this right now, if I say to you, will you spend $800 to acquire a roofing job? You will say yes. And this is the reality of it. This is how things actually work. And this is why understanding your LTV to CAC is beyond important, because if you're willing to spend even close to $2,000 or maybe even upwards of $3,000 for a customer that in return is going to give you $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, that is right there a no-brainer. And what's really unique is that if you have the credibility, the legitimacy, and the leverage in your markets, you can then say to yourself, Amazing. And we have this incredible referral program where after we do your job, if you're happy with what we've done, if you're content with the work that we did and the entire process alone, we're going to give you $1,000 for a referral. And guys, think about it like this. If we've spent $800 to acquire a customer, that customer in turn turns out to be a $10,000, $15,000 job. That's over a 10-to-1 LTV to CAC. And we want this gap to be as big as possible. And this is what I'm emphasizing and keep reiterating because this is beyond important. And so if we have a 10-to-1 LTV to CAC, and then we throw on an additional referral bonus for $1,000, we're basically paying another $1,000 to acquire another client, which in turn is going to amount to $15,000, $20,000. And then what's really unique and what's really cool is that as we get into higher ticket, more luxury builds, higher ends, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, we can afford to spend more on a customer. And so if you have a kitchen remodel for a high-end client and they're going to pay you $50,000, it's okay, guys, to spend $5,000 on a marketing cost per acquisition. Do we understand this? And so that right there is the importance of understanding your LTV to CAC, because like I've said, I've spoken to thousands of roofers and contractors throughout my career. And when I ask about these numbers, when I ask about the cost per qualified appointment, cost per acquisition, cost per lead, not many people know. And I'm not saying like this is an entirely terrible thing. If you work with us, we take care of all of that for you. We give you weekly updates. We give you weekly KPIs or key performance indicators to keep you updated. And I just want you guys to understand that you have to pay to play. It's okay to spend $1,000 for a job that's in turn going to make us $15,000, $20,000. Okay. Now, again, we have the leads, bookings, shows, closes. And now how can we actually increase LTV? How can we make a customer worth more to us over the course of their lifetime? And again, it's slightly different in the contracting niche, typically because the jobs are, one time for 15 to 20 years, unless they have referrals and they give back to us, et cetera, et cetera. So a couple things that we can do here, guys, is increase price. And what you can do, if you guys really have tight margins, a couple client of ours have amazing healthy margins between 35 to 40%. Others have sub 20, which isn't the greatest. And another thing I want to touch on as well is like industry standards. Oftentimes when I ask clients, hey, what's your closing rate? They're like, industry standards, or anything of that sort. They'll say industry standards. And we do not want to be industry standard. That is average. We don't want to be average. Especially us here at Awaken and Growth, we truly believe that we are the best marketing company on the markets. And so we cannot compare ourselves to what everyone else is doing. We have to be above the average. We have to exceed and be better and be greater. And so I don't want anyone who is a client of ours or a prospect that I'm talking to say industry standard, because it doesn't matter what the industry is doing, guys. We have to focus on ourselves, outcompete competition, and just completely dial every part of the business in. And so if you guys want and you guys don't have great margins, increase your price by 5 to 15%. See if close rate is affected. And if not, keep it there. Okay, this is another really cool tactical piece of value that I'm giving you guys. And also we have the financing options. We have start now, pay later. We have find ways to decrease the cost of labor material, though this might be a little bit more difficult and it's a little bit harder to kind of decrease this. Now, and again, going back to the huge referral bonus of $1,000, and this goes back to sales and buyer psychology, and that's people need big enough incentives to take action. What's in it for them? Okay. Now, oftentimes when hiring as well, and this is another really cool tactical piece of advice, guys, is a lot of contractors that I talk with, they have problems with hiring. And so one of the ways we can go about this is asking, what incentives are you putting on the table to hire A player talents? Now we have A player talents, we have B player talents, and we have C player talents. In your roofing company right now, what level of talents do you have? If you say C player talents, you need to find A player talent immediately, because in return, the skill deficit for their skills and what they're bringing to your company is actually losing you guys money way more than you think. And so how do we actually acquire A player talents? That's have the right incentives. That's pay more. And that means increase your cost of your goods if you have to, because we need to attract these players, because they're in turn going to make us more money at an exponential rate, and it's not linear. If you have an A player sales rep versus a C player sales rep, and the A player sales rep is closing 1 out of every 3 qualified appointments versus the C player who's closing 1 out of every 6 or 7, and you're paying them less commissions, you're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's okay to pay the premium. It's okay to pay the premium because, like I said, the returns are exponential, not linear. Okay? And now we need to get people in the door. Okay, so this is one of the ways that we can increase the LTV. If money is an issue, then have the sales rep work with them. It's okay. But the most important thing is that you have to pay to play. It does take money to make money. And so if you are a roofer or a contractor and you say, I want to, pay after the job is done, that's, excuse my language, but that's rubbish. That is complete garbage. It takes money to make money. And every single one of my most successful clients understands this. You have to play the game. You have to understand how the game actually works. And this goes back to getting over your own limiting beliefs and getting over the scarcity mindsets of money. And I'll tell you guys a quick story alone. In the past year alone, I've spent over $30,000 alone of my own money on marketing, on mentorships, on acquiring skills to have the best product and company in the game, because I understand that it takes money to make money. That's how it works. And so if you are timid and frugal with your money and you're unhappy with your situation with your contract and company, you need to get out of your comfort zone and put yourself out there. Because if not, then nothing's going to change. And so I hope this video gives you guys clarity on what your LTV to CAC is, how to maximize it, understanding the different markets, understanding that we cannot blame one bad past experience and use that to control our future. Use that to control our thoughts and how we perceive marketing companies and how we perceive meta ads or things of that sorts. And so just to finish, if you are a roofer or a contractor looking to add an additional 15 to 30 plus qualified exclusive appointments a month, click the link in bio to book a consultation with a member of our team. And again, we've now served over 40 contractors from across the US, mostly roofing companies, and we've made our clients millions of dollars in the past year alone. And so I look forward to speaking to you soon.